What's going on, guys? Back again today to talk about some pretty significant comic book news that came out of New York Comic Con about a week ago. I can't believe I missed this. Lately, I don't know, like San Diego Comic Con's the big convention every year. We always get cool reveals for a lot of different stuff there, whether it's from, toys, video games, comics, movies, TV shows, the whole nine yards. New York Comic Con is like the silver medal, the runner up of pop culture conventions. But for some reason, I guess they just didn't want to wait for um, San Diego Comic Con in 2024. Uh, Several comic book creators, most of them uh, previously working at DC, have left DC to go form a new comic book company under Image Comics, and it's called Ghost Machine. They're going to be doing 4 new comic book universes. It's Geoff Johns is the writer on a lot of these with various artists, but there's also a few other writers in there as well. But they have a trailer out, kind of like setting it up and telling you what it's going to be about. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick, and then we'll talk more about it.
Ghost Machine is not just a creator-owned comic book, it's a creator-owned company.
Ghost Machine is unlimited creative potential.
We're creating the world and the characters from scratch.
We have the creative freedom to push ourselves beyond what we've ever done before.
We get to tell the stories we want to tell.
We want to create iconic characters with massive, epic adventures.
We believe in the power of a good story.
But we wanted to create beyond superheroes. We're introducing 4 universes. Rook, Family Odysseys. We have our horror universe. And The Unnamed is a group of characters that have existed throughout American history that you've just never heard of.
The 2 books we've done so far set in this universe are Geiger and Junkyard Joe.
Geiger is a man who's become a monster to protect the people he loves. The story is his journey to trying to become a man again.
Junkyard Joe is a piece of military equipment who thinks he's a person and comes home to find a welcome or a family and finds nothing.
It's action-packed, it's emotional, and it's kicking off the entire world of The Unnamed. Like Redcoat.
Immortal, mercenary, bit of a tool. It isn't just set in the Revolutionary War of America and Britain. There's 350 years of alternative magical American history to play with.
Rook is its own book and its own universe that's separate from The Unnamed. Rook wears this mask that looks like a bird head that allows him to connect with birds as his spies, as a weapon, as he's trying to escape this dying planet.
Francis Manapul and I are doing the Rockefellers within the Family Odyssey group of books.
The best place to hide when you're in a witness protection program, perhaps, is through a different time.
Each universe has so much in it, and all of them come from a character-driven place.
We have the greatest artists out there, some of the best storytellers you can find.
There's somebody else that just signed on that I really want to talk about, but I cannot do it now.
And we're going to take it to another level.
There's plenty of room for new stories.
It's not just cool explosions.
Heroes, yes. Capes, no.
This is beyond A-list.
We just want to create the best books on the stands.
So yeah, that's Ghost Machine. That's the gist of it. So all those creators that we saw in that video, Geoff Johns, Francis Manapul, Peter J. Tomasi, Bryan Hitch, all these creators, Jason Fabok, Gary Frank, they didn't all work for DC. They all recently worked for DC, but like Bryan Hitch has worked for Marvel at some points too. And like the point is, they have now, the majority of them have left DC to go do this Ghost Machine thing, and all of them doing Ghost Machine have said that they will be exclusive to Ghost Machine. You will not get a Jason Fabok book that's not a Ghost Machine book. You will not get a Geoff Johns or Gary Frank book that's not a Ghost Machine book. They are exclusive to this new company that they're starting. This is like the 1990s repeating itself when like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and all of them left Marvel to go there, do their own thing, except now it's the bulk of them are leaving DC. I'm very excited about this. I'm really looking forward. I'm going to read all of these books. I'm going to create a pull list just for these books. Jason Fabok and Gary Frank are my two favorite comic book artists right now, and Geoff Johns and Frank Miller are my two favorite comic book writers. I also, oddly enough, I tend to like Grant Morrison. I don't like his take on comics, that like comics can be anything, basically. Like they're wacky nonsense anyway, so they can basically be anything. I don't like that take, but at the same time, every single thing he's made that I've read, I do kind of like. So I'm like, as long as you keep knocking it out of the park, Grant, I don't really care that you do whatever you want. But the minute you go do something you want to do and it doesn't gel with the mass public, get ready, because that's when, that's when the fun ends, which is ultimately what led this to happen. Let's talk about that for a second. These guys most of them are leaving DC. DC has been in a just hugely screwed up downward spiral for like 12 years. There have been some moments where it kind of like plateaued out a little bit. Rebirth looked promising, but then they screwed that up too. Overall, the gist of it is this. For those of you that don't know, in 2011, DC Comics did this story called Flashpoint. I love retelling this because I want people to know exactly how DC screwed this up. They dug their own grave, all right? They have no one to blame for this situation other than themselves. They did this story called Flashpoint in which the entire timeline narrative of DC Comics gets redone and started over fresh from the very beginning. Except it didn't. Like, they didn't fully commit to the restart. They marketed it as a full restart, but it wasn't. Like, all of Batman's previous stories and continuity were still kept intact. All of Green Lantern's were kept intact. And it wasn't long into the New 52 initiative that we started to see writers referencing content that came before the Flashpoint event, which meant that it was supposed to not have happened anymore, yet they're still referencing it in the story and talking about it. So it was poorly managed, poorly overrun. Long story short, they tried to do a full restart without committing to doing a full restart. Then in 2016, they announced DC Rebirth, which was basically going to be them ramping up to a story called Doomsday Clock, which is meant to sort of reset everything back to the way it was before they even did the big restart to begin with. But then they ended up not following through with that as well as they should. Like, they tried to do a full restart without committing to doing a full restart. And then they tried to undo the restart without truly committing to undoing the restart. Basically, the problem over at DC is for the last 12 years is they're trying to have it all. They want to have it all. They want to eat their cake and have it too. They refuse to accept the fact that if you are going to have a continuity, a narrative that makes sense, someone's, probably multiple people's, hard work and comic book stories are going to have to just kind of get thrown away as if they don't matter. It's going to have to happen. Otherwise, because like it doesn't work. Like, if you try to have it all and make everything canon and everything continuity, it does not work. There's too many contradictions and plot holes and continuity errors. It does not work. And then there's other things DC has wanted to do over the last 12 years. Not 12, I'll say, let's see here, 16 to 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's 7 years. After Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, the films, came out, it was very much so the opinion of DC was it's too dark. It's too dark, it's too broody, it's too gritty, it's too dark. I mean, they even, like, Deadpool even makes a joke about it in the Deadpool 2 movie when he's talking to Cable. Everyone felt DC was too dark, and DC had this like panicky, freak out, knee-jerk reaction of take all the darkness and grittiness out of DC and just fill DC with campy, cringy, corny, cheesy humor and smiles, and make Superman this like jolly Santa Claus figure again, and make Batman this like simpy, whiny bitch boy who just won't get the fuck over Catwoman, and just ruin it. Just take all seriousness and darkness and grittiness out of DC and just make it like 1960s Batman, just full of camp and cringe and corn and cheese. That was their like panicky knee-jerk reaction to the criticism that DC was too dark. So between that, where DC is just nothing but full of camp and cringe and cheese these days, and then on top of that, the fact that their continuity is a mess because they refuse to admit that they can't have everything, it's just a mess. DC's just been a hot mess for like 12 years now, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. Like DC overall is under new ownership from with the Discovery Warner merger, but the focus with that seems to be getting the film franchise correct first and foremost. I don't think we're going to see any kind of administrative, like, some big boss man coming in and putting the hammer down and be like, hey, comics people, get your shit together. I don't see that happening until the film franchise has, gotten its shit together. That's the priority, because the film franchise is what makes the buku bucks. So in the meantime, we're just left with these just lackluster comics. Like, a lot of people have been saying that like their newest initiative, Dawn of DC, is a step in the right direction. I disagree. I still think it's stopped referencing a lot of past shit that causes the continuity errors to be in your face. Like, we all know they're still there. The continuity errors and the plot holes and the timeline problems, they're all still there. But Dawn of DC seems to be this kind of like fresh jumping on point where they're not referencing a whole lot of past stuff. So the continuity problems don't quite seem as in your face. However, all of the camp and the corn and the cringe and the cheesiness is still in there. And it just sucks to read. It's just not a fun story to read at all. I'm actually going to be doing a video about it soon called "Can We Please Put the Edge Back into DC?" So stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's the way I could sum it up is this, right? Here's DC's problem. Over here, you have what DC Comics creators, the writers, the illustrators, the editors, you have what they want to do. And then you have over here, you have what the mass public, the fan base, the comic book readers want from DC Comics. So you have what the comic book creators want to do, what the comic book readers and buyers and consumers want made. They don't go together. They just constantly butt heads. Right? Like, what it's DC and the people working at DC want one thing, but the consumers and the fan base want a completely different thing. And as a business, when it gets down to it, it is a business. It needs to make profits and sell the product. You think that there would be someone over there at DC who took it upon themselves, like they had the authority to take it upon themselves to kind of crack down and be like, hey guys, look, I get it. You're all a bunch of like artsy fartsy, individualistic, creative people, and you want to do things your way. But at the end of the day, we're a business. We got to make that money. So if the fans aren't buying what you were trying to sell, then you just got to shut the fuck up and make them what they want. You think there'd be someone over there doing that, but there's not. Big reason, I think, for that, Dan DiDio is gone. Geoff Johns is now gone. Jim Lee is completely in charge, and Jim Lee is an artist. Jim Lee is not a writer. He's not a narrative storyteller. He's an artist. And now you know that you got the people out there like the Todd McFarlanes in the world who are going to sit there and say that like, oh, the art is the story. You can tell a story with the art. Really? When was the last time you heard like, oh, #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, this book with absolutely no words written in it at all. It's just pictures. Never. That's never happened. Like, there have been countless of best-selling novels that are just printed words on a page and contain no images whatsoever, and they've just become worldwide. Like Harry Potter, Twilight. I'm not saying Twilight's good, but like it was a worldwide phenomenon. People ate that shit up. These are like, you can make a worldwide phenomenon out of a written word story that contains no pictures. You are not going to be able to do the same thing with just a book that is only pictures. It's about the story, which means the writer and the writing and the narrative and the story, the written story takes precedent over the art and the artsiness and the side of things. It has to. But Jim Lee, the guy running DC Comics, the comic book side of things, he's an artist. He draws. Like, he's not a story guy. So I feel like that's probably a really big problem. But yeah, uh, that's the best way I can sum it up. There's and I think creators like Geoff Johns and Bryan Hitch and Jason Fabok, Gary Frank, Peter J. Tomasi, I think all these people doing this Ghost Machine thing, I think they understand the kind of stories that people want. And while people want those stories in the form of a Batman comic or a Superman comic or a Justice League comic, if we can't have that, then we will seek out the same type of stories with different characters. You know? That's what we will do as consumers and fans. And they know that, and that's why they're doing this whole thing. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about Ghost Machine for like two reasons. It's a two-pronged reason. It's one, because I think it's going to be very good comics, high quality, entertaining, fun to read. And then two, I think that the success of Ghost Machine is going to possibly be like that final push in DC to DC Comics to really kind of like wake them the fuck up and be like, guys, something's got to give here. You got to make a change. I know you don't want, there's what you guys need to do to be successful again. You know what it is. You know what you need to do. It's very simple. It's called give the people what they want. But so many of those creators over at DC are looking at it going, yeah, but what the fans want is not what we want to do as comic book creators. And at the end of the day, it's like the fans matter more because they're the paying customer. They matter more. What they want matters more than what you want. All right? It doesn't matter that, like, I get it when you're writing comics, or it could be anything, when you're doing anything kind of artsy, when you're writing comics or writing a novel or making a video game, and you love what you're doing and you're putting it's your passion, you love what you're doing, you get to wake up every morning like giddy, like, ooh, yeah, I get to go to work today, exciting. And you dread the idea of losing that and having it turn into like, oh, I gotta go to work again today and just be another fucking employee and just do what I'm told. I get it. Like the one sounds much better than the other. But at the end of the day, like, push comes to shove, it's a business. You gotta make that money. And if in order to make the money, you have to shut the fuck up and do what's demanded of you, regardless of whether or not you want to do it, and that's just what you have to do. I'm sorry, DC, that's just what you have to do. And that's, like I said, I can sum this whole thing up with, the problem with DC is, here's what DC wants to do, here's what the fans want done. They're not lining up. They're not coming together. They're just butting heads. And it's a problem. But I think Ghost Machine's going to go a long way into fixing that. I think that as the Ghost Machines like sales go up and DC's sitting there just kind of like with their dicks in their hands, just kind of like, holy shit, we just watched our best writing and artistic talent go out the door to never work for us again. They're going to be exclusive to this new thing. And now we're sitting here and I think it's going to be a huge wake up call for DC. At least I hope it is. And the way that we as fans can make sure that it is like this two-pronged victory for us, like it's good enough in and of itself to get this new line of comics from Ghost Machine, but if we want that added bonus of it also being a wake-up call that's kind of rights the ship at DC and sets them back on the correct path, then what we really have to do is read the fuck out of Ghost Machine. Like the sales numbers and the profit margins and the sales figures, that's what's going to really drive the message home. All right? So like normally what I like to do in this day and age, since I really value my dollar, my hard-earned dollar, I like to kind of like wait and see what the word is online about a movie or a game or a comic before I go spend my money on it. And I have particular like reviewers and websites where I think like I've done my research, and over time I've kind of come to realize like, okay, this person and me, we kind of see eye to eye on this type of shit. So if they say they like it, I will probably like it too. It takes a while to find like a reviewer or a company that does reviews or whatever that really lines up with your preferences, but that's the way I've been about it these past like, I don't know, 6-7 years. Is like I just kind of wait for see what the word is online after the thing comes out, and then based on what the hype is or lack of hype, that's when I decide whether or not to spend money on it. But guys, this is one of those things where I think we just gotta go in whole hog up front, and we gotta go in on this. I think like go to your local comic book shop, create a pull list, and put everything from Ghost Machine on that pull list, and go in there every Wednesday and pick up your new comics and read them. Pay for them. Don't try to just find a free way to read them. Pay for them. Just do it. Just pay for them. It's Geoff Johns, all of these writers, Geoff Johns, Peter J. Tomasi, all of these writers, what's his name, Brad or Bryan Meltzer, fucking that up, I know, but they're all fantastic writers with great track records. Jason Fabok and Gary Frank, or like Francis Manapul, are some of the best artists in the industry. Like, these books are going to be good. I don't think you have a lot to worry about in terms of like feeling like it was worth your money. I think in the end you will walk away from it feeling like this was worth my money. Go to your local comic book stores and put these in a pull list and buy them, because that's how, like, as the sales figures for Ghost Machine go up, it's going to send a clear message over to DC, and that would be awesome. That'd be awesome if, like, it's like out of this whole thing, not only do we get a brand new comic book line that's in and of itself great, but this also serves to fix this other comic book line that we already love and kind of get it back on track. I think that's best case scenario, and the way we do that is by buying all the Ghost Machine titles and reading them. And I'll be honest, guys, I'm not looking forward to all the Ghost Machine titles equally. Like, Rook Exodus looks like it's probably going to be my favorite. That looks sick as fuck. I'm also interested in, my second one that I'm most interested in is probably Redcoat. He seems like a cross between John Constantine and Vandal Savage. That looks like it's going to be interesting. Geiger also looks pretty cool. And then, Junkyard Joe, whatever. The Rockefellers, whatever. But the unnamed Rook Exodus, I'm gonna read it all. Rook Exodus, Geiger, and Redcoat are probably my top three. So, like, yeah, am I looking forward to all of them equally? No, there's definitely some that I can tell I'm more interested already than others, but I'm still like, I'm gonna buy them all. I'm gonna buy them all because I want to send that message to DC. It's like, hey, if you guys want to be successful, push comes to shove, you got to do what your fans want, not what you want. If what you want to do lines up with what your fans want done, then great, more power to you. But if it does not, you have to go with doing what your fans want you to do, not what you want to do. So yeah, that's my opinion on this whole Ghost Machine thing and this mass exodus from DC. All these, like, arguably the best talent in the industry. Geoff Johns, like I said, him and Frank Miller, they're tied for my favorite comic book writer. I've never read something written by Geoff Johns that I didn't like, ever. So yeah, this is going to be good. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. Let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments down below. Are you guys excited for this? Are you going to be reading it? Do you agree with me? Do you think this is an opportunity to kind of, send a message to DC, make it a wake-up call? Do you think they'll listen? Do you think there's any hope to fix DC at this point? Let me know down below in the comments. If you like this video, please hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to help out the channel even further, check out some of my other videos and maybe subscribe. Other than that, though, I'll talk to you guys later.